This 5-minute opioid overdose response training is brought to you by Safe Project. We want to thank you for taking a few minutes to learn how to save a life. We all make choices to minimize and navigate risk every day. The examples you see on the screen are all focused on keeping us and the people around us safe. These choices evolve as risk around us changes. In this training, we're going to discuss opioid overdose and naloxone, the simple tool we have that saves lives. So, let's get into it. The numbers that describe our current overdose crisis can be startling, but they illustrate why it is important for us to be prepared to help. The reality is, every opioid overdose death is preventable if someone intervenes in time. In 2022, approximately 110,000 lives were lost in the U.S. due to overdose. Currently, about 75% of overdose deaths are caused by opioids. With that in mind, what are opioids? Opioids are a class of drug that include heroin, synthetic opioids such as fentanyl, and prescription pain relievers. Opioids act on places in the brain and nervous system, including the brainstem, which controls things your body does automatically. Here, opioids can slow breathing, stop coughing, and reduce feelings of pain. What's an overdose then? With the previous information in mind about how opioids work, the issue of overdose becomes quite clear. If our breathing slows down too much, that's a problem. Simply, an overdose is a respiratory emergency caused by too much of a particular chemical signal, a signal that is triggered by opioids. If that's the case, how do we help? Well, we make that signal stop. Let's chat about how we do that. Step 1. We notice opioid overdose symptoms. The symptoms of an opioid overdose are the symptoms of a respiratory emergency, meaning the person is not getting enough oxygen. So, if we suspect an opioid overdose, we need to notice, are they breathing very slowly or not at all? Additionally, do they respond to your voice or to touch? If they are breathing and unresponsive, you don't need to be immediately concerned about an opioid overdose and using naloxone. If there are additional non-overdose symptoms that cause concern, support may be needed. Step 2. Respond. Seek help and find naloxone. If you notice that someone is not breathing too slowly, and that they are unresponsive, move them carefully to a stable, horizontal position face up. Once the person is lying flat, tilt their head back to create a clear airway. As soon as possible, but without slowing the administration of naloxone, call 911 for a medical emergency. Share the situation, what you've done so far to help, and describe the symptoms you've witnessed. Step 3 is to give naloxone, the life-saving opioid overdose reversal medicine. Here are some things to know about the opioid overdose reversal medicine naloxone. Naloxone is commonly referred to by the name Narcan. Narcan is one of the multiple brands of naloxone. Naloxone specifically acts to stop the chemical interaction between opioids in our brain, the same interaction that slows and stops breathing in the instance of an overdose. Someone can fall back into an overdose after 30 to 60 minutes once naloxone wears off, so finding help and more naloxone can be important. No matter how strong an opioid is, naloxone can be highly effective if used in time. Naloxone will not harm someone who does not need it. Naloxone typically comes in either an injectable form or a nasal spray. Both can be acquired through a prescription, and nasal spray naloxone can also be found to purchase over the counter at most pharmacies. It is also worth contacting your local public health organizations to ask whether naloxone is available for free within your community. Throughout the day, though, we recommend keeping 2 doses of naloxone in your vicinity in case you come across a situation where you can save a life. Naloxone is effective for at least 30 years after its advertised expiration, so please don't dispose of naloxone even if it's expired unless you're replacing it with newer doses. Returning to our steps to intervene in an overdose, giving naloxone is quite simple. Each naloxone product will come with instructions in 2 doses. If using a nasal spray, peel open the first dose of naloxone. Hold the nasal spray as you see here, insert the applicator into a nostril, press the plunger firmly with your thumb. Do not press the plunger until you have placed the device tip into a nostril and are ready to use the medicine. Since overdose and overdose reversal is a chemical process, naloxone can take some time to work and can be re-administered every 2 to 3 minutes as necessary. If you do not receive a reaction within 2 to 3 minutes from the first dose, administer your second dose in the other nostril. At this point, the individual has not been breathing as needed for at least 2 to 3 minutes. It is important that you already have emergency medical support on the way. You also need to follow 911 instructions. You may be guided through chest compressions or rescue breathing over the phone. In this situation, breath is a life-saving currency and can buy the person more time and greatly increase their probability of survival. Stay until help arrives. Once they are on the scene, continue to follow directions. Once a person is responsive to naloxone, your role is to be gentle and kind. Welcoming that person back, explaining calmly what occurred, and giving them some space can be helpful. Overdose can be an incredibly disorienting experience, and individuals don't often feel well after being revived. Compassion is critical here. And those are the 3 steps for saving a life with naloxone in the instance of an opioid overdose. To summarize our takeaways for this training, we look for overdose symptoms, we call 911, and we use naloxone. Luckily, if you've forgotten the content in this video and are in an emergency situation, just check the box. All naloxone comes with simple and easy to follow instructions for how to save a life. This has been a quick 5-minute overview of opioid overdose response. But there's always more to learn. For more information, check out the rest of our online courses, including an expanded opioid overdose response training and other resources provided by SAFE Project. Thank you so much for taking 5 minutes to learn to save a life. Overdoses don't need to be fatal. It's up to all of us to turn the tide on opioid overdose.